Welcome to Cost Saver Conversations. I'm Angela, and I ask the practical questions so you can quickly understand what matters. Today, I'm joined by Asan.
Hi, Angela. We are unpacking the 30% rent rule is broken, how to work out what you can really afford by postcode today, and tying it back to the wider cost saver ecosystem, including tools like UK Rent Affordability Checker, Postcode Plus Income, so you can turn insights into action quickly.
Just a heads up before we dive in. We are your synthetic hosts. We are great with numbers, but as AI, we can sometimes be confidently wrong. Think of us as the digital versions of your most knowledgeable, slightly caffeinated friends.
Exactly. Treat this chat as a smart estimate only, not as professional financial guidance. Always check important details with official sources or a qualified expert before making any big decisions.
Welcome back, everyone. So today we are getting into something that, honestly, I think basically every renter has heard this at some point. The idea that your rent shouldn't be more than 30% of your income. Assad, you've been pretty vocal that this rule is just not fit for purpose anymore.
Yeah, look, it's not just a bit outdated, it's fundamentally broken for UK renters. And the thing that gets me is people don't even know where it comes from. It traces back to a 1969 amendment to United States public housing legislation, like American subsidized housing. It was never designed for the British private rental sector.
Wait, really? I always assumed it was just like established financial wisdom or something.
Nope, it was a policy cap on subsidized American housing, and it drifted across the Atlantic and became this rule of thumb that estate agents and personal finance blogs keep quoting, which would be fine if it actually worked, but it doesn't.
So, what's the main problem with it? Like, why does it break?
Okay, so the biggest issue is that it uses gross income, right? The number before HMR touches it. So if you're a single renter earning, say, $35,000 in Manchester, you do not have $35,000 to spend, not even close.
Right, because there's tax, national insurance, student loan maybe, pension.
Exactly. And that gap between gross and net can easily be $8,000 or more a year. That's roughly $666 a month that the 30% rule just pretends still exists. So if you sign a tenancy based on the gross income version of affordability, you are quietly overcommitting by that amount every single month.
666 quid a month. That's not a rounding error, is it?
No, no, it's not. And then there's the geography problem on top of that.
Go on.
30% of a Newcastle salary buys you a very different life than 30% of a London salary. Council tax bans, water rates, transport zones, even just the price of a weekly food shop, they shift dramatically between postcodes. A rule that ignores all of that is not a rule, it's a guess.
And I suppose the letting agents aren't really helping here either.
Well, look, if a letting agent tells you that you pass affordability because rent is under 30% of gross, that's a referencing threshold. It's not a personal budget. Passing referencing and being able to live comfortably are two completely different tests. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. It's like passing a driving test versus actually being a good driver, kind of.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's actually a decent analogy.
So, before we even talk about rent, what are the things that eat into your salary first? Because I think people, I know I used to just look at my bank balance and go, that seems fine, without really thinking about it.
Right, and that's really common. Most renters underestimate this by a wide margin because pay slips are confusing and things like pension auto-enrollment feel kind of invisible. So the typical stack of deductions is income tax at your marginal rate, 20%, 40%, or 45% above the personal allowance, then national insurance, then student loan repayments if you have them, most commonly Plan 2 at 9% above the threshold, or Plan 5 for newer graduates, then workplace pension, usually 5% of qualifying earnings under auto-enrollment, and then any salary sacrifice stuff like cycle to work or childcare vouchers.
And only after all of that do you actually see your money?
Only after all of that. And even then, you're not done, because then there's the essential household running costs that follow you regardless of which flat you pick.
Which are?
Council tax varies hugely by band and local authority. Energy bills under the off-gem price cap. Water and sewerage, which is regionally set and not a competitive market, so you can't shop around. Broadband and mobile. TV license if you watch live broadcasts or use iPlayer. Contents insurance, which most landlords now expect you to hold. And then commuting costs, which in London and the Southeast can honestly rival a second rent.
Oh, tell me about it. My sister's commute into London is just eye-watering. Okay, so if the 30% rule is out, what do we use instead?
So this is where the residual income method comes in. And I was going to say it's complicated, but actually no, hold on. It's not complicated at all. It just requires honest inputs. Instead of asking what percentage of my gross pay is this rent, it asks what money is left after tax, essential bills, and a realistic living allowance, and is that enough to cover the rent and still function?
Oh, that's actually reassuring. So you're working backwards from reality rather than forwards from some arbitrary percentage.
Exactly. And this is actually the approach mortgage underwriters use when they stress test borrowers. It's not some fringe idea. It's how careful landlords run their own numbers too.
Okay, so walk me through it. What are the actual steps?
5 steps. First, start with gross annual income. Subtract income tax, NI, student loan, pension to get your true net pay. Second, break that down to a monthly figure. Third, subtract fixed essential bills tied to your postcode, council tax, energy, water, broadband, commuting. Fourth, subtract a realistic monthly living allowance, and I mean realistic, food, toiletries, healthcare, clothing, and a small buffer for irregular costs like, haircuts and birthdays. Fifth, whatever's left is your true rent ceiling.
And it gives you a pound figure, not a percentage.
Right, and that pound figure is honest in a way that percentages never are, because it accounts for the fact that a $45,000 salary in Cardiff carries a completely different weight than the same salary in Zone 2 London.
Which brings us to the postcode thing. You mentioned that two people with identical salaries can have wildly different affordable rents just based on where they live.
Yeah, like the difference can be $400 a month, and it's structural, not about spending habits. Take council tax. Bands are set nationally, but the multiplier is set by each local authority. Rutland, Kingston upon Thames, Nottingham, consistently near the top of the Band D league tables. Westminster and Wandsworth sit near the bottom. 2 Band D flats can differ by more than $1,500 a year in council tax alone.
Wow, okay.
Then water and sewerage. England and Wales are carved up between regional monopolies. Southwest Water customers historically pay some of the highest bills in the country. Northumbrian and Yorkshire customers tend to pay less. You don't get to choose. Energy. The off-gem price cap sets a national ceiling, but standing charges vary by region and meter type. And older housing stock, which is common in parts of the north and in Victorian London terraces, uses significantly more energy than newer builds, even with the same behavior inside.
And transport on top of all that.
Yeah, London's the obvious one. Zone 1 to 4 travel card, more than $2,000 a year. But commuter belts around Manchester, Birmingham, Bristol, Edinburgh, they all have their own painful season ticket math. A cheap rent an hour outside the city can just vanish once the train fare lands. And then, property condition too. Poorly insulated homes, energy performance certificate rating E or below, they leak money through the walls. Tenants can quietly pay $40 to $80 more a month just for the same level of warmth.
That's a lot of hidden costs. Can you give us a really concrete example? Same person, 2 cities?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take Priya, single renter, earns $38,000 gross, has a Plan 2 student loan, and a standard 5% workplace pension. Her net take-home is roughly $2,400 a month. She's weighing a move from Manchester to London for a new role at the same salary.
Same salary, okay.
So in Manchester, M14 postcode, council tax band B around $145 a month. Energy about $110, water $35,
Broadband and mobile, $50. Commuting by tram and bus, $90. Realistic food and living, $450. Contents insurance and TV license, about $25. After all that, she's left with roughly $14.95 for rent, savings, and everything discretionary.
So if she wants to save a bit and have a social life.
Right. If she wants to save $300 a month and have a $200 social life, her true rent ceiling is closer to $995, not the $1,140 the 30% rule would suggest.
So even in Manchester, the 30% rule is already overshooting by over £100 a month.
Yeah. Now move her to London, SE15 postcode. Council tax band C in Southwark, about $160. Energy, similar at $115. Water Thames, $40. Broadband and mobile, $55. But zones 1 to 2 travel jumps to around $180 a month. And realistic food and living goes up to $550. Contents insurance and TV license, still $25. After all that, she's left with roughly $1,275 for rent, savings, and everything else.
So her honest rent ceiling in London?
If she still wants that $300 saving and $200 social life, closer to $775 to $875.
I'm sorry, but $775 in Zone 2 London? You're not finding that, are you?
No, and that's the point. It's a structural mismatch between salary and postcode. It's not a budgeting failure on Priya's part. If she signed on for the affordable $1,140 the 30% rule endorses, she'd be about $265 a month underwater before her first Friday night out. It's just, yeah.
So what does someone in Priya's situation actually do?
The answer usually isn't to squeeze harder. It's to change one of 3 big levers: postcode, property type, or housemate count. Everything else is sort of nibbling at the edges.
Right. And what about the mistakes people make even when they are trying to be more careful? Because I imagine abandoning the 30% rule doesn't automatically mean you get it right.
Oh God, no. So the common ones, still using gross rather than net income, which you'd be surprised how many people still do, forgetting bills that aren't monthly, like annual contents insurance or the TV license, ignoring irregular but predictable costs, Christmas, birthdays, car servicing, underestimating food by using a good week as your baseline instead of an honest average.
Oh, I'm definitely guilty of that one.
Everyone is. And then assuming the current energy price cap is permanent, which it never is, building in zero emergency buffer for things like a boiler breakdown or your laptop dying, treating a partner's contribution as guaranteed when the tenancy is only in your name, forgetting the deposit and first month's rent cash flow shock, not checking the energy performance certificate rating, which directly predicts your winter energy bills, and, oh, this one catches people out, forgetting that council tax has a 25% single occupancy discount that changes if a partner moves in.
That last one is sneaky. And what about renewal time? Because I always hear horror stories about rent hikes.
Renewal time is honestly when affordability quietly collapses for a lot of people. A 6% rent increase on a flat you could just about afford last year can push you into overdraft territory, especially if energy or council tax has also gone up. And the OFTM price tap is reviewed quarterly, so you need to rerun your numbers before signing a renewal rather than just assuming last winter's bills will repeat.
So practically, what should listeners do right now? Like, if someone's listening to this on their commute, what's the first thing they do when they get home?
Grab your last 3 pay slips and your last 3 months of bank statements. That's step 1. Pull your actual numbers. Don't guess. Guessing your net pay is honestly the single biggest reason renters overcommit.
And then?
Confirm your true monthly net pay from a recent pay slip. Add any regular non-salary income you can genuinely rely on. List every fixed essential monthly cost tied to your postcode. Add a realistic living allowance based on your actual last 3 months, not your aspirational self. Add a monthly savings target, even if it's modest. Subtract the total from your net income, and the result is your maximum sustainable rent, before any social spending. Should take about 10 minutes.
And if that number feels really low and kind of depressing?
Then look, that's actually the point. An uncomfortable truth now is far cheaper than signing a tenancy you can't maintain and losing your deposit or your credit score in month 9. And it's not a verdict, it's information. It lets you decide whether to compromise on postcode, property size, or housemate count before an agent is even involved. You're making proactive decisions instead of reactive ones.
And it won't affect your credit score or anything just to run the numbers?
No, not at all. You're not applying for anything. And if your circumstances change, pay rise, new job, whatever, you just rerun it. It's not locked in.
Okay, so let me try to sum this up for everyone. The 30% rule, American origin, uses gross income, ignores geography, basically a guess dressed up as advice. Don't rely on it.
Yep.
Instead, use the residual income method. Start with your actual net pay, subtract all your real costs for your actual postcode, subtract a realistic living allowance, and what's left is what you can genuinely afford in rent.
And the key word there is realistic, not the version of yourself that meal preps every Sunday and never buys a coffee. Your actual self, based on your actual bank statement.
I feel very seen right now. Assad, this has been really, honestly, really eye-opening. I think a lot of people are going to go home and have a slightly uncomfortable 10 minutes with their payslips tonight.
Good. Better 10 uncomfortable minutes now than 12 uncomfortable months in the wrong flat. And we've got a tool on the site that preloads regional averages for council tax, water, typical energy use, so it does some of the heavy lifting. But even just doing it on paper with your bank statements will give you a clear picture. You'll walk into your next viewing knowing which asking rents are realistic and which ones are quietly setting you up to fail.
Brilliant. Thanks, Assad.
Cheers, Angela.
Quick side note. This guide connects with other cost-saver blogs, especially UK Mortgage Stress Rates and Affordability, MEES, Energy Performance Certificate C, and Landlord Mistakes, and common UK rent affordability mistakes.
Exactly. And reading those together helps you connect the dots across your household budget, not just this one topic in isolation.
And if you want to apply this immediately, jump into tools like UK Rent Affordability Checker, Postcode plus Income right after this episode.
Primary sources used here include Ofgem, Energy Price Cap Explained, and Money Saving Expert, so you can verify the data yourself and stay evidence-led.
That wraps this cost-saver conversation with Angela and Assad. If this helped, share it with someone who could put these ideas to work this week.
Your next step is simple. Try UK Rent Affordability Checker, Postcode plus Income, then read UK Mortgage Stress Rates and Affordability and use them together to take action today.